I spent 7 days in Nosara, Costa Rica with 3 jewels, and we kept this sleep and dream journal because that was the theme of the retreat, and covered this journal front to back in that week with reflections and musings, dream analysis, and takeaways. And I put them into 33 takeaways and diamonds that I was able to excavate through the week that I spent there. So let's get right into it. One thing I want to mention before diving in is after I came back from retreat, I was talking to a friend, and she had mentioned that like going on retreat is like winning the lottery. I was telling her how afraid I was of integrating all of the learnings and wisdom into my real life, and she had shared that it's like the lottery. You feel like you've won the lottery after retreat. But just like the lottery, if you don't manage the money, the wealth of wisdom that you get, and truly focus on integrating it into your life, then you go broke, right? Somehow all of that money just disappears. All of that wealth, all of that wisdom is not valuable in just knowledge, but it needs to be applied to real life. So I hope through these downloads, you're able to pick and extract things that you can apply to your life and honestly take something away from this conversation and truly integrate it into your life and have a different perspective, a different tactical approach to different things. So yeah, that's really something that I just want to land as an intention for this video. Let's start with imagine everything works out perfectly in your favor. I signed up for the retreat months ago and was unable to get a spot because they had booked up very quickly. And so I ended up signing up for the wait list. And I was told many times that the chances of someone dropping out last minute was just not really a possibility, so to not get my hopes up. And so I kind of had made peace with the fact that this wasn't in the cards, it wasn't destined for me this year, and really just accepted that. But I was so bummed because there were a handful of friends that I knew from meditation teacher training that I had done, and I just was like, I knew in my heart, I was like, I'm supposed to be on this retreat. But it didn't work out. And then 48 hours before people were flying into Costa Rica, the coordinator who was really organizing everything, Sue, reached out to me and said that someone had a family emergency and there's a spot available. Would I want it? My mind started spiraling. I was in New York visiting family for Eid, and I was working full time, and things were just not lined up for me to just take an impromptu trip that I had not packed for and was not ready for. And I kind of just spiraled by calling some friends who I knew were going on retreat and asking them to make the decision for me, and just getting some really beautiful advice from them, trying to help me navigate through this decision, because I just kept ping-ponging between, should I go? Is this my destiny? Because this opportunity and this window opened up, like it must be Kismet. And the other part of me was like, maybe this is the universe trying to test me to see if I say no, and if I can really stay and honor the piece of this not being right for me and having to jump through hoops to make it happen. Eventually, I made the call that it was what I needed in my life, because I was so buried in noise. And even this simple act of making this decision, should I go on retreat or not, which is, I'm very well aware, such a privileged decision. The fact that I had such a hard time coming to a decision was part of the reason why I wanted to go on retreat. I was just bogged down and buried in so much noise and influence that I couldn't even really hear what my voice, my inner voice, the truth voice that lives with everyone, was really asking for. And so that was a sign to me as well that I needed time to like unplug and just take this leap of faith. Everyone who was going on retreat had gotten onboarding and very extensive knowledge on what to expect. And I went in pretty much blind. I didn't even know it was silent until I had spoken to another retreater. And I think that that's exactly how it was meant to be, because if I knew all the details and all the rules and all the kind of things to expect, I think it would have kind of made me want to say no, because it is a lot to kind of chew on when you really have never experienced anything like this before. My coach told me, imagine everything works out perfectly in your favor. And in hindsight, I can only really truly say this, but everything just snapped back to back just perfectly. It was stressful at moments to get there and to like arrive at the retreat. But once I was there, it was so apparent to me that I was meant to be there. And ironically, the place was called Casas Kismet, which is all about destiny and fate. And I really want to offer that to you as this idea of, imagine if whatever situation you're in where you're not sure and you're making a decision and flip-flopping, imagine everything works perfectly in your favor, and you can't see it in the moment, but you will be able to see it when you look back at that experience, that it was all perfect. This is a good one. Silence is effortless. I'm a big yapper. If you can't tell, I love to talk. I'm a chatty person. I can talk to anyone and everyone and make it a long-winded conversation. I was shocked at how effortless silence was. I was the most scared about the silence part of the retreat and the week. But once I went into silence, I realized what a weight off my shoulder and my heart it was to not have to respond through words. As someone who makes a living off copywriting and words and just really holds words and the weight of words to such a high standard, it was such a relief to not respond, to not have to have conversations with people and sit and, I mean, we were eating in silence. We were doing everything in silence. And it was really like, it shocked me and surprised me how much I enjoyed not having to express myself in words and not having to explain who I was or what I'm about, because I realized in this experience of silence how much I want to be understood by people. And I didn't miss the words. I didn't miss speaking. What I did miss was physical touch and being able to just like be able to make eye contact with people and have that physical intimacy with someone. But I was shocked. Silence is an effortless act. It requires you to not do, versus in my head, I thought silence was something I had to actively do. It was more about just letting go and truly surrendering and being present and knowing that that's enough. This is not a vacation. This is a chance to taste something infinite. This was said to us by our lead during the retreat, Hector Marcel, who is my Lama, my teacher, and the person who was guiding a lot of our meditations. And he said, this is not a vacation. This is a chance to taste something infinite. It's hard to explain exactly what that meant to me, but it helped anchor me in the retreat so deeply. Like I had mentioned in the past, like have this tendency to want to over-explain myself. And this statement made me realize, like, I don't have to explain to everyone in my life that what a retreat is, and that it's not a vacation, that you're doing a lot of inner work, deep, deep work that is so active, so exhausting in a lot of ways, and requires so much of yourself to show up. And this just freed me in so many ways. And I'll just leave it at that. It was such a beautiful way to start the retreat and really anchor in that. Daily routine is how we go deep in devotion. This is probably my greatest divine download and the most potent thing that I will be taking into my everyday life. What I mean by this is, this was the first time ever in 35 years of life that I did the same exact thing every single day. I didn't realize how chaotic my life was because of my lack of routine. Yes, I do a lot of the similar things every single day, but being able to wake up at, I was waking up at 4:30 every morning, even though our call time during retreat was 5:15. But we would have everything planned out and regimented. Like when we were meditating, all our four formal meditation sits, our 90-minute yoga, our 2 90-minute yoga sessions, every meditation, all our meals was planned at the exact same time every single day. And I had never, ever in my life done that. I had never eaten breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the exact same time every single day, and eaten whole foods, and gone to bed without my phone. And it was just so incredible to have this regimen that was baked in for me. And I thought I was going to have so much resistance to that. And I had the exact opposite. My body loved waking up at the same time, doing the things at the same time, doing my mantras at the same time. After every meal, I would go on walks around the swimming pool and recite my mantra on my mala beads. And it's that repetition of the same thing just transformed my body. The first day, I could barely handle 90 minutes of yoga because I spent a lot of my life in a sedentary form. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do yoga twice a day for the rest of the week. But my body by the end of the week just got used to the movement and had so much more strength and resilience. This has transformed my life, because it's one thing to know all the things you need to do to feel well and be well in your body, mind, and spirit. And it's another thing to truly have the imprint and experience and lived experience of what it feels like. To have that in your body is something that will always now be with me. And now I can feel it. I feel when I crave movement and when I haven't had a good night's sleep, how much that impacts me and affects everything. And so this is such an incredible thing. The routine and the schedule that we keep is the soil that we lay in the foundation. It's the soil that we lay for ourselves. So it doesn't matter how much success or strategy you're doing in your business or all the goals that you have, if you don't have the proper soil that's enriched and really being tended to, if the conditions are not healthy and well and strong and resilient, then nothing can truly grow from that. And I was so blind to it. I thought I do a decent job taking care of myself, but this experience really showed me my blind spots and helped me realize how much I have to really make these practices non-negotiable in my day-to-day life. What you place importance on isn't always important. This is a big one. I thought going into retreat that I was going to figure out all these questions about business and entrepreneurship and just kind of have all this clarity on the things and the goals that I've been working on. And none of that ended up actually being what came up when I was in silence. When I was meditating and in silence, all the shit that I had hid from and that I've run away from, that I was really, really ignoring and unaware of the fact that I was ignoring, that I buried into drunk drawers of my mind and tucked away in different parts of my heart, all of that came up. All of the foundational stuff of my belief systems, my narratives, all the traumas that I had been through in my life that I had never really fully healed from, all of that decided to come up. And it made me realize that what I put so much importance on in my day-to-day life, the goals, the content, the trying to tick all these boxes and get things done, productivity bullshit, is not important at all. What's really important is knowing who I truly am, being aware of what's here in my heart, and really the relationships in my life that help hold me and help carry me through this life. That's all the stuff that really matters. And so it's such a beautiful lesson, is what sometimes we think is important is not actually of importance. And when you get really quiet, you're able to really discern and be able to put things in the proper bucket. Not all messages are delivered in words. This is one of my favorite lessons and divine downloads. The first night of retreat, right before we went into silence, we had a community dinner with all the retreaters, and this beautiful fellow retreater, Tanya, had shared to me, that you might get messages during this retreat that is not delivered in words. And I had told her that one of the reasons I was on retreat was because I felt like that there was a message buried in a vault, like Inception, Chris Nolan's Inception, where there was this message that was buried so deep inside of me, and I wanted to excavate that message. By the end of the week, I want to be able to say exactly what that message was. And she said to me, not all messages are delivered in words. And when we went into silence, we were practicing yoga in the shala, and the shala was this beautiful outdoor escape. And I was closest to the edge and the opening of the shala, if you will, and I was next to everyone's shoes. It started drizzling rain, and I moved the shoes in an inch, and then it started drizzling a little bit harder, and I moved in the shoes a little bit more, and then the rain started going sideways, and it started monsooning, really, really torrential downpour of rain, and I was completely covered and soaked on my yoga mat in rain. And Hector, one of our leads, was transporting people from the shala to their rooms and just helping people stay dry, and just with an umbrella transporting people silently back and forth to their rooms. And I had this deep wish and desire inside of me that came out of nowhere, that clicked. It was saying to me, what if these raindrops were blessings? And I was trying to protect myself and block my blessings. And this kid-like nature in me just kind of activated. And it was coming deep from my intuition, just run and go submerge yourself in this rain. So I ran out of the shala barefoot by the swimming pool, which is the center of the retreat, and put my arms out like this and just let the raindrops submerge and soak into every single cell and pore in my body. So profound. I saw Jack, doing the same thing. And then a couple of other people started joining us, like Georgia, and I just felt more alive in that moment than I have ever felt as an adult. It was so profound. I imagined that every single raindrop was a kiss or a blessing from an enlightened being and a Buddha. And it was purifying any sort of self-animosity or any sort of negative seed that I had ever planted. It was literally washing them off of me. And it started thunderstorming, and I imagined that the thunderbolts were the multiplication of goodness by 1,000,000 times. And so anytime anyone was saying a mantra, or I said a mantra, or someone did a good deed, it was going to multiply it by 1,000,000. And this was all part of the retreat to me. This was the first embodied practice, because the retreat was all about breaking the illusion of our reality and seeing the illusory nature of everything in front of us. And where someone might want to retreat and hide from the rain and the downpour, I was like, I want to feel it all, because it's teaching me something. It's here to like love me and to bless me. And it was such a powerful, powerful experience to have that in complete silence. And sometimes it did cross my mind that some people might think I was absolutely insane. But that was the beauty of it too, is that I just felt deep down that this was what I was meant to do. And in that moment, I got the message, what Tanya was saying, that's not all messages are delivered in words. I also have to say it is kind of cool that my message came in the form of a monsoon. Someone who has a podcast like me called Monsoon Season. It's all about being able to feel everything and allow your heart to open and crack open through the monsoon in your life. And so it was like even more special that was the message, and it was being delivered exactly how it was meant to be delivered. Tending to the littlest things is a spiritual practice. This was taught to me by the man who managed our resort and our retreat center. There was the man who was the one responsible for cleaning the grounds. Every day he would be the first one there, and I would see him plucking all the weeds of the beautiful landscapes. And after every storm, and it was storming quite often, he would hand wash with a bucket and a rag every single white painted step in that resort, just to make sure that the dirt and all the grime wouldn't accumulate and that it would stay white and pristine. This is such a powerful lesson that I learned through him, is if we really tend to the little things, that's when we truly care. And I felt so cared for. I felt so blessed and grateful that this man was washing these steps and plucking a weed, or just tending to every little thing in this property so that we can have this heavenly paradisical experience. It was so beautiful and profound to see someone care so deeply about the smallest things. I just find people who move and work that way to be the biggest inspiration. And I'm just incredibly blessed that someone took care of the space for us in that way. It really was so special. When you find the illusory nature of things, you become magic. So this is a special one. Like I had mentioned before, the raindrops can be raindrops, or they can be kisses and blessings from enlightened beings and Buddhas, or you can turn a thunderbolt into the multiplication of goodness by 1,000,000. The other way I was able to play with this concept on retreat was Hector, encouraging us to play with illusion in when we were having our meals and eating our food. So if we were drinking water, or if we were taking a bite of chicken or rice or potato or avocado, like, can we change the practice itself, the illusion of the food? And I did this sometimes where I would imagine myself eating, instead of eating a potato, I was eating wisdom, or I was eating patience, and I was eating beauty, or freedom. I would drink beauty a lot. Yeah, I would imagine drinking, if I was drinking a juice or a water, I was just drinking an elixir of beauty. And as I was drinking it, I was becoming more beautiful, and everyone around me was becoming hotter and more beautiful. And everyone did look hotter and more beautiful. So it was such a fun experiment to play with the illusory nature of everything. And I really recommend just trying this for yourself with any practice that you're doing. One of the most powerful statements and quotes that Hector said was a quote from my favorite Sufi poet, Rumi: "Find the antidote in the venom." So let's talk about this. Hector also said something that ties really beautifully into finding the antidote in the venom, which is, he talked about bitterness and sweetness, and how if we actively are eating something very sweet, let's say like a papaya, if you ask your mind to find the bitterness in the sweet fruit, your mind will be able to find it. So even if you're taking a bite of papaya or watermelon and you ask your mind to find the bitterness, it will find the bitterness and the sweetness. So if that's true, then the opposite must be true. You are able to find the sweetness and the bitterness. And this is such a profound lesson in all of life, because life can be bitter a lot of the times. And so if you are going through a season or a moment of bitterness, can you ask your mind to move in the sense of finding the sweetness in the bitterness that you're experiencing? I promise you it is possible. I have tasted it literally and apply this to moments in my life already and offer this to friends. And it's been a really powerful tool to practice through food, because it's such a neutral experiment, but then also practice it in your life when things feel sweet or things feel bitter. Like having a crush is a sweet moment, but there's also a lot of bitterness, right? There's a lot of bitterness in, will he, won't he, does he like me, does he not, does she like me, does she not? There's a bitterness to that of not knowing. And the same thing can apply to anything in your life of rejection. There's a sweetness to rejection, of not getting a certain thing that you've wanted in your life. So really look for the sweetness in the bitterness and vice versa. And I think that ties so beautifully to finding the antidote in the venom. I think those two concepts really sing in the same harmony together. You are the holder of everything, yet nothing holds you. This was said to me and to all of the retreaters multiple times by Hector during our guided meditations, and it stayed with me. That is what I strive to be and to always feel, that I am the holder of everything. My capacity, my heart's capacity is infinite. I can hold it all, yet nothing has a grip on me. There's nothing else to explain but that. It's so juicy, it's so sweet, it's so potent. This is a really beautiful one. Reality is just a thicker dream state. This is something that Hector talked about a lot during retreat, is that we think that there's this huge distinction between our dreams and our reality, and it's really our subconscious and our conscious mind. But the more we study our dreams, the more we realize that the reality is just a thicker dream. It's thicker karma. And that was such a wild kind of concept to really play with during the week. And he also said, when delusion comes, or if you feel like you cannot live without something or someone, turn the venom into the antidote. And so this one, and he talks about how this is the signal. Anytime we feel like something, maybe it's something that we want, a materialistic thing or a goal that we want to achieve, or someone that we want in our lives, when there's that grip of, I can't live without this, I have to have this, that is the signal in our brains where the work needs to happen, where the breaking the illusion needs to happen, where the coming back to karma and emptiness needs to happen. It is the wake-up call when we have things gripping us in that way. That is the signal that we have to wake up. Not even wake up from the dream state, but wake up from the reality that we're living in. Let it be easy. This was one of my favorite teachings from retreat. It was said by none other than our beautiful yogi, Sachi, who taught all of our yoga asana and led us through such beautiful dharma. But she said, let it be easy. As someone who chronically has to make things harder than they need to be, this freed me in so many ways. There was a moment where she said, let each sweat drop be a blessing. Let each hair strand that falls to the ground while you're practicing be an offering. And imagine that each skin cell that falls off your body onto the mat, onto the shala ground, is a diamond. This place will never be the same because of you. It's so profound and deeply seeped into that teaching of breaking the illusion that we had talked about earlier. But Hector has also shared so many times that you can't retreat in exhaustion. You can't try to get it right. And when he was saying this, I felt like he was saying it to me directly. He was like looking me right in the eye, because before coming to retreat, the short amount of time I had to prep myself, I just kept asking people like, well, what should I prepare? Like, what do I need to do to like get into this right mindset? And the first night, all he said was like, you have to relax into it. You can't exhaust yourself to results. You have to be able to relax and ease yourself into a state that naturally, organically will lead to results, because you are in a place of ease and your nervous system is not hyper active and shocked in a way. And so this has been a profound lesson for me that I hope also is something that you can take something away from. You don't have to exhaust yourself into the result. The result will be when you are able to really ease into it. So let it be easy. Let it be easy. Let it be easy. Your energy speaks before you do. The power is not in your voice, but what radiates from your very being. It's in your presence, your vibration, and the energy that is transmitted through you being rooted in the truth. I explain myself a lot, but I felt understood, and that I understood everyone there without saying a word. People that I had never met before. And what a deep, profound lesson to know that I don't have to use words to always be felt or seen. And that applies to outside of retreat as much as it does in retreat. Something I learned during retreat was if you stare at me long enough, I will fall in love with you. I have a crush on everyone. We weren't supposed to make eye contact, but sometimes we just naturally, serendipitously would make eye contact with certain people. And the more that happened, the more I would crush on people. Yeah. And if you look at me too long, I will crush on you. That's it. Sorry, I have a problem. It's my nature. I wrote, everyone has a crush on me. I actually do think this. Like, that's what came out during Retreat in Silence. Everyone has a crush on me, and my nature and my true nature is to fall in love with people in silence. That's my true nature. Let's keep it at that. You can recode anything. There's prana in inadequacy. It's just prana. So Hector said this to us, and it was really powerful. He said that, there's prana, there's life force in even a negative story or a self-belief, like I'm inadequate, I'm not enough. So if it's just prana and empty of a nature, then we can and have the power to redirect that prana into something that does serve us better, that I am enough, I am full, I am whole. And that inadequacy has prana. And I found that so powerful. And so if I get really quiet and stop entertaining my impulses, I can move my mind to recode anything. If everything, and I mean everything, is empty of a nature, then my mind is just moving and doing its thing. So maybe if I am aware enough to see it moving in a direction of my old patterns or karmas, I can move it and redirect it into new territory, one that serves me better and serves the goodness of others. Yeah, I really love that one. During one of the yoga sessions, Sachi started the session by saying, "Drop into the current. If you forget, do it now." It's so simple, and I'm still truly unpacking how profound it is. She didn't say much during this Dharma talk. She didn't use a lot of words, but when she said that, it was so simple. Just the drop into the current. I felt that immediately, because sometimes when we're about to practice, we're like getting ourselves situated. There's so much happening in our mind, in our spatial awareness of things, the environment, the body. All of these things are trying to get their ducks in a row. And when she said drop into the current, it was like surrender, right? Just surrender right now and be here now. But it was a new way of saying it. It just hit my ear and my heart so differently, because sometimes I just get so caught up in things, and drop into the current just feels so powerful of a visual and a way to really understand, like, if you forget, do it now. If you're still in your head, if you're here, you're there, drop into the current, because the current will take you. The current will carry you. You don't have to do anything but just drop in. The current will carry you. If you resist it, that's when the struggle will happen. That's when things start getting dicey. This is such a powerful, powerful lesson. Drop into the current. If you forget, do it now. So good. In the peacefulness of retreat, call the enemy. This was a lesson that was shared by Hector. He said this, and it was so profound. He said that When to not call the enemy is when you are in a state of conflict. Like if you're in an argument with someone, that is not when we have to deal with it and work with it. When you are in the most peaceful state, call the enemy, because that is where you can truly unpack and understand what's happening and have the awareness and the ability to discern and to unpack the situation. And it was so powerful because, from the outside, it might look like we're just blissing out on peace and joy all the time in silence. But when I was meditating, every single sit, I called the enemy. And sometimes the enemy was me. It wasn't someone else in my life. It was me. And I had to face myself. I had to look at myself, old versions of myself, the current version of myself. All of these different enemies were coming up. And yes, there were different people and traumas that I was working through as well. But it was such a powerful thing to be able to be in a peaceful state. And I just felt like a warrior. Like I'm calling in the enemy right now in my mind and having this like mind fight, like in Stranger Things or something, where I'm just having this internal battle of peace with my enemy, of understanding, of compassion, of trying to release the enemy and the grip that the enemy has had on me for so long. In the peacefulness of retreat, call the enemy. And you don't have to be in silence in Costa Rica to do this. If you're truly in a peaceful state, in any meditation sit, be brave, call the enemy, and see how you can meet the enemy in that moment of peace. Another gem that Hector gave us was, you cannot feed your reflection. Stop being addicted to the glass. How many of us are feeding and overfeeding our reflection? This brought me back to a moment when I was in Toronto. I took a dance class, an Afro dance class, and the teacher would always say, which I'm saying always, like he repeated himself many times, but I only took that one class ever, but it stayed with me. We were all looking at the mirror to try to, get the movement and the choreography correct that he was teaching us. And he was like, don't look at the mirror. The mirror is not going to tell you the truth. You're looking at the mirror and you think that you're just, oh, my hand goes here, my leg goes here. And it's like the mirror is lying to you. So don't trust the mirror. You have to trust what it feels like here. Because we put so much attention and devotion and resources on the mirror, the reflection, and not enough on the source. That's how I interpreted this idea and this concept. And it's exactly what Hector, I think, is trying to say. And I'm translating it as this, is you cannot feed the reflection. It's just glass. So even when it comes to beauty, when we look in the mirror and we rip ourselves apart and just notice the one thing on our face that we don't like as the main thing, that's not true. The reflection is not the truth. You never are going to be able to really fully see yourself. The mirror is just a reflection. It's not you. And this is such a powerful thing that we can hold ourselves accountable to. Ask the right person for help. This is such a big one. I had a little bit of a moment where I was calling the enemy a little too much in my meditations, and a lot of afflictions were coming up. I was dealing with a lot of pain. So much pain was arising from what I was experiencing during retreat, because I was in it. I was locked in. I was locked the fuck in. And I had a moment where I was like, I don't know if I could do this anymore. And everyone had left the dinner table, and I was just in the kitchen area by myself. And I saw Adam, who's a friend of mine, who is one of the few people I had known prior to retreat. And someone I consider family. He was in meditation teacher training with me, and he was just in the kitchen making 3 cups of tea. And I wrote on a little note, "I need a hug." And I go over, and I felt very guilty at first because I was like, we're not supposed to be having too much chatter or like, passing notes or hugging each other. But I really needed a hug because I was slipping. I was feeling like I wanted to give up. And I was just so sad. And I gave him this note, and he looked up and he said, "Me." And he just went like this. And he gave me the best hug I've ever had in my entire life, and cradled my head in his chest. And just for a minute, I felt so held. And in that moment, I realized how amazing it is when you ask for help and you ask the right person at the right moment. And there was no words exchanged, but he knew exactly to hold me in that moment, literally hold me. And he probably has no idea how much that kept me from spiraling into destruction. But it was such a powerful teaching of ask the right person for help. Go to the right person who is not going to tell you what you want to hear, but they're going to tell you what you need to hear. Go to the person who will not have anything to say, but literally be able to hold you in that moment and give you the hug that you need or the shoulder that you need to like keep going. Ask the right person, and trust that everyone has that person. Everyone has that person, or whoever's around, ask, because he just happened to be there, and I just trusted he was the one to help me through that moment, and he was perfect. Our nature is to be kind and tender to one another. Our true nature is to be kind and tender to one another. Being in silence for a week, this is not even just a truth, but a law of nature that I now know. I saw it, I tasted it with my own eyes and my heart, and it is true. There is nothing more true. Everything is perfect. Like literally perfect. Yeah, that's all I got. You've been the one all along. Something that came up during retreat was that I have actually been most of my life a pick-me girl. I would have a crush and I would like someone and shapeshift into what I think that they wanted me to be. And I would always make the first move, and I would again shapeshift until I lost myself in that person. And a lot of the times I would be rejected or left, and many times it hurts to be that person. And a lot of it stems, I know, from my father leaving me at 15 and leaving our family and blindsiding us, and me feeling like if I'm perfect, if I'm exactly what you want, then there's no way you're gonna leave. It comes from that wound. If I become what you want, then you can't leave, right? And I had to face that story during retreat and realized how vicious that cycle was. Even being with someone for 10 years now, I still look at that wound and see how is it seeping into different parts of my relationship. And this was such a hard thing to look at. I also wrote, I'm fine as hell and the most lovable human being on the planet. I spent 35 years thinking I have to do stuff to be worthy of being liked or loved. I am the one I've waited my entire life for. No one, not my parents, not my friends, not my lovers. Only I and I alone am my own best friend and the love of my life. All right, dreams are karmic clues. This is a kind of a cool, trippy one. Hector said that dreams reveal unsolidified karmas so you can right a wrong before it even happens. This is wild because it's a dream meditation retreat and we had to analyze our dreams, and every single night my pen would hit my journal and it was like my dream would vanish into thin air and I was so frustrated. But Hector would encourage me, just write a word down, and then once you write the word down, then 2 words start coming up, little details start to flicker in your mind, and then you have the dream starts to kind of come back to you. And it was wild. Like during the retreat, there were so many things and problems that I was trying to solve in my mind, and the dreams were kind of like premonitions, like playing out things that so that I could see, oh, if I take this decision, then this is what the consequences or the weight of that decision will be. And it's so true. Our dreams are really our subconscious speaking to us. So if we think about it as a way to just find clues to help guide us, we can avoid a lot of pain, suffering, and heartache if we really give the dream the attention and kind of like the analysis that it deserves to help unlock something inside of us so that we can avoid making any mistakes in our lives. It's kind of cool. The best identity is no identity. Be no one. This, I can't help but think of Game of Thrones when I think about be no one. Arya Stark is her story arc in I forget what season is all about becoming no one through the House of Black and White and her training. And it's so wild because so much of our suffering comes from our identity of I'm Aisha, I am a teacher, I am a meditator, I'm a wife, I have a husband, I have parents, I have a sister, I am a copywriter, and I like to do this and I don't like to do this. And our identity is steeped in ego and in our suffering. And when you become no one, and the idea of playing with the concept of no identity, it allows you to truly be fully living in equanimity and living from a place of neutrality. It's not saying that you don't have to be who you are. And a lot of letting go of identity is very, very hard because there's so much grief that comes with letting go. But it was just something that Hector gave us during retreat to really play again with the illusion of nature and the illusion of identity and how frail identity can be. And I found that to be so fascinating to play with that. And even after some shavasanas, after practicing yoga, we would do long shavasanas and Sachi would just be like, and I'm just going to leave you for dead. And we would play dead in shavasana, right? It's corpse pose. And being dead is about no identity. And I loved the meditations that I would experience after shavasana because I'm no one as a corpse. I am absolutely no one. And I felt like I could go really, really deep within myself through that lens. Take your time. Slow is hot. This one is pretty much a no-brainer to explain, but I will just give a little backstory. I'm a New Yorker, so I move fast and I hustle and I like to just pride myself in getting shit done quickly, and I've always been that person. But during retreat, something that surprised me is, one of the things that was asked of us is to not move quickly, is to, when we're walking down the steps, when we're transitioning our seat, if we're moving like, our props away during yoga, that we have to be quiet and gentle and soft and slow. And it was the first time in my life I ever really moved slowly. Even as a dancer, everything that I've always done has always been about explosive, like, movement and energy. And to really move slow, and I really practiced this in the swimming pool, of just like moving as slow as possible and seeing, like, letting the water really resist my movements. I felt so much sexier. I felt so hot when I was moving slow, and everyone looked hot when they were moving slow. And so, yes, slow is really fucking hot. So move slow. There is nothing cute about racing to anything, or racing to do this and rushing to do that. Or rushing is the most unsexy thing. So just ooze and slow and sexy. Oh, I just loved it. I'm never going to move fast in my life. I'm never rushing anywhere ever again. Give and joy multiplies. This is a juicy one. Doing something for someone else's joy multiplies your joy tenfold. This happened many times during the retreat when I was witnessing people being sweet to one another, and there were so many moments of sweetness. I saw Michael give Roy a birthday card. It was his birthday during the silence, and I ran to my bedroom and wrote a birthday card. I didn't run. I moved slowly to my bedroom, and I wrote him a birthday card, made a little terrible illustration of a birthday cake and a note from my heart, and I plucked out a yellow flower from one of the bushes that I just thought was so beautiful. And I saw him laying by the pool, and I gave him his birthday card and his yellow flower, and I saw him just place it on his chest, read it, and then place it on his chest, and then just smile, like, at the sky. And I was in the swimming pool, and we didn't say anything. Obviously, we were in silence, but just seeing the joy on his face, it meant so much to me. Seeing the joy on Michael's face when he was giving his birthday card, it was contagious. And I saw another retreater, Jack, like, had sunburn, and so I had one of these, like, Korean masks that are so good with healing sunburn. And so I gave her a mask and a little note that said how to use it, and she passed me a note and said how grateful she was and how much my presence meant so much to her. And that touched me even more. So I went to my room and grabbed some more masks and left it on her bed. And I come back at the end of the day, and my pillow is covered in flowers. And I knew it was from her gratitude for me giving her this small gift. There were so many moments like this of people, friends, and people I just love and adore giving each other little flowers and little tokens of appreciation, of I see you. It was just so infectious, and it just brought so much joy to make other people feel joy. It was one of the most magical parts of the retreat. Oh, and the last thing I'll say is during our first silent breakfast, Hector was sitting close by, and when he left the breakfast table, he just kissed me on the top of my head. And it was so unexpected. It was just like, I didn't know if that was allowed, but it's Hector. He could do whatever he wants. He's running the show. But I just was smiling, and I felt so joyous. And then I look up and I see Adam and Sunil, and they saw that happen to me, and they were smiling, and Adam had this, like, sweet smile on his face, and he got, like, the joy from me experiencing the joy of Hector giving me this sweet kiss on my head. It's just so infectious to be joyful to each other, and It truly does expand your joy when you give other people joy. I truly know that from this experience more than ever. So at the very beginning, I shared that there was a message that was buried deep in my vault. And one of the intentions of retreat was to uncover and unlock this vault. And the secret message that came to me that I want to share is the most dangerous weapon in the world that is hardening is a soft heart. The message that was buried inside me was, no matter how hard the world gets, your heart was built differently. It was built to keep opening and softening. That is your gift. Never feel guilty or ashamed of it. Use it for goodness and love everyone. This ties perfectly to vulnerability, and this is what I came there to learn, is that the world is getting harder and harder, and my heart is gonna keep getting softer and softer, and that is the antidote for everything that's happening. That's the antidote for the hardness of the world, and to use it, to be not afraid or ashamed of it. And I just know that that's the work that I'm supposed to be doing here. That God, source, whatever you want to call it, gave me this power, and I want to use it for the goodness and to love everyone. Silence is unity. One of the best conversations I had was in the airport shuttle, leaving the retreat with Lou and Tanya. Post-retreat is always a little weird and funky and unsettling, and there's a lot of grief that comes around with it. And Lou had kind of shared this really beautiful reflection that, like, when we were eating in silence, we were a unit. We were together. There was a lot of synergy. And as soon as we broke our silence, we kind of broke out naturally into these like little pods, these little groups. And I didn't know what was going on there or here and there. And the silence is such a powerful community tool. And it was so fascinating to hear that reflection, because I had felt it. I had felt more disconnected once we had words, once we were able to speak. And yeah, it was so beautiful. We had such a beautiful ceremony, and it was so powerful to use our words finally to express what we had been through the last few days together. And it was really awesome to be able to go up to someone and say, like, I think you're so beautiful. I think you're such a sweet human and you inspire me. But there's also this divide that happens naturally. I felt more connected to everyone in silence, and that was just such a wild thing to notice. One of my favorite things that Hector said in the last day of retreat was, "You've touched truth here. It cannot be destroyed." When you break silence and it starts to hit you that you have to enter the real world again, there's a flood of emotion. There's so much grief that comes with it. There's fear of, how do I go back? Like, it's so safe here. I felt so safe. And when he said that you've touched truth here, it cannot be destroyed, it really cemented the fact that this happened. This was a real experience. And the most important thing to know is that this experience happened through my mind, and everyone else's mind. They experienced the same thing differently because they're seeing it through their lens and through their karmas. And that can't be taken away from you. You will always have it. And I will be spending like my entire lifetime and lifetimes in the future unpacking this experience and how profound it was. But it will never be taken from me. It's so beautiful. Everyone is a teacher. Find the teacher identity in everyone and watch yourself be free. This is a lesson that I have cultivated through silence. He's not a crush, he's my teacher. She's not my problem, she's my teacher. He's not your trauma, he's my teacher. You can apply this to anything. If you see every human being and every relationship in your life that is causing any sort of conflict or friction in your heart, if I see them as a teacher, it literally melts away, I think, the grip that experience has. Everyone is my teacher, truly. And that has freed up so much space and so much of the stickiness that happens, for me at least, in my suffering, is that once I give everyone the label of teacher, it becomes so much easier to have gratitude for them and for that experience and for what they're there and how your mind is moving in relationship to them. You are the refuge now. After having this really amazing, profound experience in Costa Rica on retreat and truly tasting inner peace for the first time in my life, it just so happened that my karma was to have one of the worst travel days of my entire life. Going from silence to an airport is very, very jarring. And I was on a plane that was like a 3.5 hour flight, and we flew for 3.5 hours, and then we were on the tarmac for 11 hours with no air conditioning, no food, no water, and just a lot of chaos and anger and fear and intensity and violence, even, of people just losing their marbles, like waiting for customs, waiting to deplane and to get off the plane. And I was truly being tested on the plane. I was listening to Ocean Eyes on repeat, the Billie Eilish song, because that was the song that Hector had us listen to when we broke our silence. And it was just trying to stay in this peaceful state as long as possible. I was reciting my mantras. I was really trying to stay rooted in the retreat as much as possible, but I started getting really frustrated. Like, why is this happening? Like, why is this undoing the work that I've done for this last week? Like, why me? Poor me. And there was this really beautiful couple next to me, and the guy was a blind man named Austin, and the girl next to me was Kat, and we struck up a conversation and made some jokes with each other, and before I knew it, hours had flown by, and she was tired, and so I told her to put her legs up on me and to be able to nap. And they had a long road ahead driving to Kentucky after they got off this flight, and we didn't know what was going to happen next, but it was just such a beautiful moment to know that you can really root yourself in peace and be a refuge. In that moment, in hindsight, I realized like I am a refuge now. Like, this experience is not slipping away and not slipping through my fingers. I am this experience. I'm the embodiment of it, and now is when it matters. Now it's when it matters, when everyone is freaking the fuck out. And the three of us in our row were able to like create this beautiful safe haven and this refuge and this golden shield around us in a lot of ways. And it was just so powerful. At the end of the trip, she invited me to their wedding, and I'm so excited to see them. And it was such a powerful moment of, wow, like I can truly be a refuge for other people. Because I noticed that while other people were freaking out, she was like, how are you staying this calm? And I had mentioned I had just done silent retreat, and I became the retreat for them as well. And it was this really beautiful beautiful reflection that I needed to really experience and feel. Nothing matters if you don't do it joyfully. The one question I asked Hector before we went into silence was, can I laugh? He laughed at me. His response was to laugh at that question and say, of course, you're not a zombie. You can laugh. And so that gave me the green light to laugh at everything and anything. I saw a bug, I started laughing. Hector said a joke, I was howling. If someone looked at and made a funny face at themselves, I started laughing. If there was a funny noise, I started laughing. I just laughed my ass off all week. And I mean, when you're doing spiritual work, it can get so intense. Like, I'm spiritual, I'm serious. It's so serious. Spirituality is so serious. We're doing spiritual work, serious work. Ugh, I just can't take it. I can't. I have to, I couldn't say a single joke or have a single clap back for a week. So I laughed, and I noticed Hector look at me every time I laughed in his classes, and he was speaking and everyone was silent. I would just howl and laugh the whole time. I laughed my ass off all week, and it was so good. It felt so good. Just joyfully be that laughing Buddha in every experience. Every experience, be the laughing Buddha. It's so good. It feels so good in the body, and it kept me going so many times when things do get serious and things do get very heady and intense. Laugh, be joyful, be joyful. Nothing matters if you don't do it joyfully. The last and final divine download is be the altar. So during retreat, we had this stunning altar that was being blessed and was really in the center of the shala, right? It was where we sat and practiced all of our meditations and yoga, and we had people bring offerings every day, flowers, leaves, and beautiful petals, and water, and we had photos of teachers from the lineage and notes that people would write and dedicate their practices and sits to. It was so beautiful. This altar was so sacred, and we all held this altar to such a profound, beautiful level. Like, we all took care of this altar and made it beautiful and honored it every single moment during this retreat. And Hector, the last day, looked at it and said, how beautiful everything has been, and this altar is you. He looked at us and he says, you are the altar. Be the altar. Sometimes we look at beautiful things and an altar and we think that is on this pedestal and I'm here. I'm just as human. And be the altar just means be a god, be a Buddha, be an enlightened being. You don't even have to taste or know what enlightenment really is to be that. Be the beauty in the world. Be the offering to the world. And hold yourself at that level. Take care of yourself. Adorn yourself. Love yourself. Offer good things to yourself. Dedicate to yourself. Be the altar. You are the altar. And if I'm the altar, then I have to see you as the altar, and I have to treat you as such. And it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. There are so many things I learned, and I hope through this episode you were able to get a taste of the teachings and the insights and the downloads and the divinity and the beauty that I was able to taste for 7 days. I don't know if I'll ever be able to fully articulate or give it justice, but I tried my best. I did it joyfully. I filmed for 4 hours yesterday and it was out of focus, and I had to sit down and film this again, and I hope that it was transmitted even better and even more filled with love and joy. If there are questions about retreat, what to do before retreat, during retreat, after retreat, any of the retreat questions, please leave a comment and I would love to discuss more with you. And if you have any of these different downloads resonated deeply with you, please shout it out. Let me know which one really struck your heart the most. This is an offering from my altar to your altar. And wherever you are in your journey, I see you and I love you, and I want you to know that you don't have to be in a 7-day silent retreat in Costa Rica to taste the infinite possibilities. It is available to you now, in this moment, in any moment you choose.